Bournemouth have recorded a monumental result against Arsenal, beating the Gunners by 2-0. And in this video, we're going to be diving down into what they did so well to get such a brilliant result against one of the Premier League's best. When you are playing a side like Arsenal, first and foremost, you need to be defensively resolute, and that is exactly what Bournemouth did. Not only did they really come inside to really block out the centre of the pitch, but the lines in which the defenders and the midfielders were really compact, and this allowed Bournemouth to keep a really good shape. Cook and Scott in that double pivot in the centre of the park for Bournemouth really closed down the space between them and their centre-back partners. This caused a lot of havoc for Mikel Merino, who made his first real start for Arsenal, and Kai Havertz, who were trying to find pockets of space in the centre, but they really failed to do so. And this is down to Bournemouth's real iconic and dynamic play through their pressing game, always making sure that an Arsenal player didn't have a lot of time on the ball, forcing them out wide, and then being able to use those doubling up of situations with Semenyo, with Ouattara, to make sure that they always had an option for their teammate to be able to create a defensive solution. Then in the centre of the park, making sure they were dynamic, making sure they were incredibly hardworking, and a saying that I really enjoy, in particular in reference to the Premier League, is the fact that you need to earn the right to play. And the sentiment behind that is essentially you need to work hard enough to be able to give yourselves a chance at winning a game in the Premier League. And in particular, I think that is the case against a team like Arsenal. Such high quality, such good work rates, but Bournemouth matched that and even surpassed it on a number of occasions. I was extremely impressed with Semenyo, and in particular I was impressed with the midfield too, who not only dropped back when they needed to, but also supported the attack. Andoni Iraola has got this Bournemouth side playing with an increased amount of energy, but also now we're starting to see the quality come through. A proper good performance, but at the base and the foundation of it, a really resolute defensive display. And this is a really good example of what I'm talking about. So you've got Arsenal on the attack currently. You've got Raheem Sterling with the ball out on this right hand side, taking the place of Bukayo Saka, who obviously isn't available for this match. You've got Mikel Merino making a movement in towards the centre of the box, and you've got Leandro Trossard out on this left hand side. He's just off picture, but he is just here. One thing I was really impressed with this Bournemouth setup is, number one, look how compact they are. Look how close and tight-knit they are. They're within the parameters of the penalty area, but at the same time, look at the positions of Alex Scott and Lewis Cook. Look how close they are to their centre-backs. Look how close they are to their back line. And this kind of positioning made it so very difficult for Arsenal, in particular Mikel Merino, to get between the lines. There was no threading. Kai Havertz was always being aggressively marked by Senesi or Zabarnyi. They did a really good job of being aggressive against this Arsenal setup, and it was that aggression and dynamism and pressing and just sheer energy that they brought to this match that made the game a lot more difficult for Arsenal than I'm sure they would have imagined. Of course, we need to mention the red card, but I want to take an angle that I don't think too many people are talking about, and that's from a Bournemouth perspective. When we think about Bournemouth, we think about their high energy, we think about their high tempo, and we're not focusing on that when it comes to this Arsenal mistake. And it is a mistake, but I think we need to talk about the reason why Trossard makes this mistake. He takes the ball from Calafiori. It's a decently weighted pass, but then look at this. Look at the positioning of Araujo right here. He's so close to Trossard. He's nearly there. He's nearly intercepting the ball. And this will have played a part in Trossard's mind. We need to think about the game state in this particular instance. What has caused him to float that ball over? What's caused him to misplace that pass? Because it's not unforced. Many times we talk about unforced errors, but in this particular instance, I think this is heavily forced, and it's heavily forced by Bournemouth's real aggression, their tempo, and the actual state of the match. Their tenacity to get onto every single loose ball, and this will have been one of them. Look at what Araujo does, and it causes the following. It causes the ball to go over to Saliba. It's a poor pass, of course, and of course Trossard needs to be given a lot of criticism here, but I think Bournemouth need to be given a whole lot more credit for what they forced Arsenal into. And then look at the positioning of Evan Nielsen. He's not offside, and then it's about whether he can get to the ball. That's a completely different question, I think. But I think the dynamic that Bournemouth brought to this, the idea that he could get to that, the real running power, the desire, and this, for me, as we've already started to explain in this video, was not the main reason why Arsenal lost this game. Bournemouth were fantastic, and it was the level of tempo and dynamism they brought to the match that really made the difference. Of course, we can have a different angle here and just look at the amount of space that Evan Nielsen has to run into. Is Ben White getting there? I'll leave that up to you guys in the comments below. I think that Bournemouth deserve a whole lot more credit, though, for causing this problem for Arsenal. But just being defensively resolute wasn't enough for Bournemouth. They needed to have a potency going forwards. And in this energetic Bournemouth side, you have a lot of attacking players with high quality. Semenyo is the pick out for me. And in particular for this game, Bournemouth really charged down this Arsenal right-hand side, their Bournemouth left-hand side. And I think that was for a couple of reasons. Number one, I think they found something in Ben White, and in particular the physical battle between him and Semenyo, but also the positioning of Thomas Partey. In particular, over on this right-hand side, they know that Declan Rice, who is arguably the more physical of the two, would be out on this left. At the same time, you've also got Raheem Sterling, and this would have been a big bonus for Bournemouth going into the match. Without a Bukayo Saka, with him not being available, Sterling isn't going to be that defensively resolute. Yes, he might still work for the side, but he's not going to have the defensive awareness that a Bukayo Saka would. And then similarly, out on this left-hand side, for Arsenal, the right-hand side for Bournemouth, you still got some attacking potential, but they mainly figured out and featured down this Arsenal right, the Bournemouth left-hand side, and in particular, Semenyo had a number of different opportunities to try and get crosses in and to try and beat their man. It was then down to the overlapping runs of Kirkesh that allowed Semenyo not only to go down one way, but also down the other. It was really well worked, and Ben White will have known he was in a game in this particular point. It was really good. Scott coming in and covering as well, making sure that he gives some support, and it was the energy that Bournemouth brought to the side, but as well as that, it was the dynamic play and the quality that they finally managed to show. This is a good example of what I'm talking about. This is Semenyo on the ball currently on this Bournemouth left-hand side, the Arsenal right-hand side, and this is a good example of what they tried to do going down this Arsenal right. The development of play was really maintained down the wings, and in particular, they tried to isolate Ben White on a number of occasions. In this particular occasion, Ben White decides to get aggressive onto Semenyo, who lays it off to Alex Scott. And then just look at the way this develops. Look at Ben White right here. Look at his focus. He's not on the ball. It could be played round the corner, but he's focused on Semenyo. That duel was a really, really important one, not only physically, but also spatially. Look at the amount of space that's left in behind Ben White because of his physical advance, because of his aggressive advance, and Semenyo getting the better of that duel. As the ball gets played on, Alex Scott lays it off to Semenyo, who is in acres of space. Kiwior is coming over to cover because Gabriel was out of position, and then you're looking at Thomas Partey and whether he's able to do it as well. Remember what I said about them really prioritising this left-hand side over Arsenal's left-hand side, and Bournemouth looking down their left rather than going down their right. And this is because of the exposition of Thomas Partey. He was exposed in this match, and I think his lack of physical duel and physical prowess really gave Bournemouth the impotence to be able to drive forwards. He beats Ben White, he beats Thomas Partey, and he also beats Kiwior driving down the left-hand side. Now, it doesn't amount to a major opportunity. David Wright ends up spilling it, but it was a telltale sign of what Bournemouth were really looking at. You got 1, 2, 3 Arsenal players trying to stop this one Bournemouth player, and in the middle you've got acres of space. It was brilliantly worked by Bournemouth, and unfortunately this move didn't come to anything, but they were threatening time after time again. And then we're talking about the moment of quality. Can Bournemouth generate a chance to give themselves a high quality opportunity? And they did this from this corner, a corner that I'm sure Arsenal and Arsenal fans would have been proud of had their team scored it. So what have you got? You've got the ball about to be whipped in from that far side. You've got a load of Bournemouth players in the centre of the box, and we do need to take into consideration that William Saliba is not on the pitch, and he would have been a real aggressive physical presence in the box. That being said, the positioning of Ryan Christie right here is a really interesting one, and I think that an Arsenal player should be at least aware of the idea that he could be given the ball at some given point. One thing that happens is Kluivert makes a darting run round to the front post. This is clearly an already pre-orchestrated goal, and the ball is going to be whipped low and hard down towards Kluivert out on this front post. And as the ball gets really thrown forwards, you've got Kluivert towards this front post. He just lays it off with a perfectly deft touch. And we're going to take a look at that now. Look at this touch right here. This touch is absolutely sublime. Just a little pop round the corner, and then you've got Christie, who is already on your screen, on his bike. He's ready and he's alert to this. He's going to be able to get on the end of it, and look at this. It's a perfectly weighted pass towards Christie, who is then able to take the shot first time. He takes this shot first time and fires it towards the top left-hand corner. It's a brilliantly orchestrated goal. The run from Kluivert, the move, the run from a couple of other Bournemouth players to distract some Arsenal players, the holding off. It's a brilliantly worked goal that needs to be given a whole lot of credit. We give Arsenal a lot of credit when they come off with brilliant set pieces, and Bournemouth have done exactly the same. As I said, Saliba probably could have made a difference on this, but I think Bournemouth need to be given a whole lot of credit for this quality set piece. And then finally, before we wrap up, let's take a look at the final contentious moment. Of course, it's the penalty that leads to Bournemouth's goal. We have the ball being won back in midfield. You've got Christie in this particular moment, and you've got Cook in the centre of the park. And I really like the positioning of these Bournemouth players. Look how infield Semenyo is. Look how close Kluivert is. Look how close to everyone they are. Dynamic, really close-knit, closing the spaces down. It's really impressive. But again, what's also impressive is the ability to win second balls. Bournemouth were fantastic, and this is a telltale trademark of their particular play. Bournemouth won 55% of the duels in this match against Arsenal. That obviously means Arsenal won 45%, beating them in overall duels. But also, Bournemouth won their tackle percentage of 69%. That beats Arsenal's at 59%. Bournemouth were fantastic from start to finish, from defence to attack. They were brilliant, and they managed to orchestrate this particular chance. So the ball breaks free, and Bournemouth managed to get onto that second ball. It gets immediately played over to really isolate Kiwior right here out on this left-hand side. You're not going to want to go down Gabriel's side, too strong, too powerful, but Kiwior, who has come in for William Saliba, obviously substituted on for Sterling. In this particular scenario, you've got Evanilson pinning onto that left-hand side, once again isolating that left channel. We're going to look at it for one final time because it's really important. This is the avenue that I'm sure Andoni Iraola would have looked at pre-match, but it's also something that managed to develop within the match. You've got Evanilson never giving up on this. Kiwior is favourite to this. He is, just straight out. He is favourite to this. And 9 times out of 10, you'll see him just calmly pass that back to Raya. But what's so good about this Bournemouth side? They never get up. They're continuously trying to push themselves forward. And that is down to the manager and the real belief that he has instilled in them. Evanilson does not give up on this. He continues to run, and he gets his rewards in this particular scenario. Yet again, another mistake. Let's just take a look at that again. Another mistake that I believe has been caused by the aggression and the tenacity of those Bournemouth players. It's not just out of nowhere. Kiwior would play that pass normally, but it's because of the pressure that is being instilled upon him by those Bournemouth players. Again, it's now down to whether Evanilson can get there instead of Raya. He does. He manages to get there. He just goes across him, tries to go round the goalkeeper, and he gets taken down. And of course, the goal gets converted by Justin Kluivert, who gets in a goal and assist to his name. But I'm sure that Bournemouth and Andoni Iraola will be absolutely ecstatic with not only their performance, but their professional play and the amount of energy they put into the match, because they thoroughly deserve to win. But of course, guys, let me know what you think in the comment section below. What did you make of the match? What did you make of the red card and all of the contentious decisions? And what did you think of the performance of both Bournemouth and Arsenal? Let me know. I would love to hear from you. Thank you ever so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Hope you learned something new, and I hope to see you in the next one. But until then, my friends, take care.